There was a moment, hundreds of thousands of years ago, when the entire human race nearly didn't happen, and it all came down to a group smaller than the number of people who follow a mid-sized creator today. Let me show you just how close we came. It's a brutal, dry morning somewhere in Africa, maybe Chinchamkin years ago. The land is cracked, the rivers have shrunk to trickles, the animals your people used to hunt have thinned out, or vanished, and scattered across a punishing landscape is what's left of your entire lineage. Not millions, not thousands, but a tiny huddle of people you could almost count. And here's the part that should make the hair on your arms stand up. Every single human alive today, all 10 billion of us, traces back through that one desperate shrinking group. If they don't make it, there is no you, no me, no cities, no music, no future, nothing. The whole story of humanity was hanging by a thread thinner than you can imagine. Now, when you hear the word extinction, your brain probably jumps to the dramatic stuff, an asteroid, a volcano, some single terrible afternoon that wipes everything out in one go. And sure, that happens. But that's not how humanity nearly went out. Our near miss was quieter, and honestly scarier. It wasn't one bad day. It was a slow squeeze that lasted longer than our entire species has existed since. Let me explain, because this is where it gets wild. Scientists can't dig up a sign that says population very low this year. Instead, they read something you're carrying around right now, your DNA. Every one of us is a walking history book, and buried in our genes is the faint echo of how many people came before us. And in Hanginin Le Haimiba, a team ran a clever new method across the genomes of more than banging living people. And what they found stopped everyone cold. Somewhere between around Chinbamayin and Tamchamuibangin years ago, the number of breeding humans crashed to roughly Mothai individuals. Let that land. 1,280. That's it. That's not a city. That's not even a small town. That's a big high school. And that tiny, fragile group didn't bounce back the next year, or the next decade. They stayed that low for about Mocham years. Read that again. 117,000 years of humanity clinging on by its fingernails. To put it in perspective, everything you think of as human history, farming, pyramids, empires, writing, the internet, all of it fits into the last Murahanging years or so. This bottleneck, the squeeze, lasted nearly 10 times longer than all of recorded civilization. And for that entire stretch, we were one bad run of luck away from vanishing forever. By some estimates, that crash wiped out around Chinmatam Bay % of our ancestral population. Picture 100 people, and then imagine only one of them being left to carry the whole future. That's the margin we survived by. So what nearly finished us? It probably wasn't a monster or a war. The leading suspect is the weather. The planet swung into a long, brutal, cold, dry spell. The climate turned hostile. Drought stretched on. Food sources collapsed. And the small, scattered bands of early humans had to survive a world that seemed to be actively trying to shut them down. And for 100,000 years, that's exactly what they did, against odds that should have erased us. And here's something that should make it feel even more fragile. That ancient squeeze wasn't even our only brush with the edge. Much later, long after our numbers had recovered, a monstrous volcano called Toba erupted on the other side of the world, and some scientists think the cloud of ash and the sudden cold that followed may have knocked us back down again, a second time. Humanity kept walking up to the cliff edge, peering over and somehow stepping back. So here's the question that really matters. How does a group that small hold on for that long when everything is stacked against it? Why didn't we just quietly blink out like so many other species did? The answer is the same reason you're here reading this. It comes down to a handful of things that tiny population had going for them. So let me show you the survival cheat codes that got us through the squeeze. Cheat code 1. They stuck together. In a shrinking world, the worst thing you could be was alone. A single family drifting off on its own was a family that vanished. But a group, even a small one, could share the little food there was, watch for danger in shifts, and keep a fire going through the cold nights. Every person was a shield for every other person. That instinct to huddle close when times get hard isn't weakness. It's the exact behavior that kept the last of us alive. Cheat code 2. They could handle a world that kept changing. Here's the strange gift of a harsh, unstable climate. It punishes anything that can't adapt. The animals that needed one specific food or one specific temperature, they were in trouble. But early humans would switch. We ate different things. We moved when we had to. We changed our plans when the old ones stopped working. A brain that can say, okay, that's not working anymore. Let's try something else. Turns out to be the single best tool for surviving a world that won't sit still. Cheat code 3. They carried their knowledge forward. When the group is tiny, every scrap of hard-won wisdom becomes priceless. Which waterhole still has water? Which root you can eat in a bad year? Where to shelter when the wind turns deadly? The people who knew things were walking survival manuals, and because humans teach each other, that knowledge didn't die when one person did. It got passed down, held onto, stacked up, so each new generation started a little less clueless than the last. In a 100,000-year emergency, that slow buildup of know-how was the difference between hanging on and letting go. Cheat code 4. They just refused to quit. This one isn't in a chart anywhere, but it's real. Think about what it actually takes to survive Mochemurbekin years of hardship. That's thousands of generations of people waking up to a hard world, losing others, burying children, facing another hungry winter, and choosing to keep going anyway, to have one more child, to walk one more mile, to try one more time. Not one of them knew they were saving the entire human race. They were just refusing to be the link where the chain finally broke. And here's the beautiful twist in all of this. We came here to talk about how close we came to extinction, how humanity almost ended. But flip it around, and the same story says something incredible. It didn't end. That impossibly small group, in that impossibly hard world, held the line for longer than our whole species has existed since, and then, slowly, quietly, they made it out. The numbers climbed, the world eased, the descendants spread across every continent on Earth. And eventually, one of those descendants ended up right here, right now, which means you are not just a person. You are the far end of the most unlikely survival story on the planet. You come from the mote ba percent that made it, from the ones who huddled together, adapted, remembered, and refused to quit through 100,000 years of a world that wanted them gone. So the next time everything feels like too much, when the world seems stacked against you and quitting feels like the easy option, remember where you actually come from. You are the direct descendant of the toughest, most stubborn, most cooperative survivors this planet has ever produced. They made it through the squeeze so that you could be here. And that same refusal to quit, the same instinct to lean on the people around you, the same ability to adapt when the plan falls apart, all of it is still in you. It always was. They held the line for 100,000 years and handed it to you, so hold it well.